What's going on, everyone? My name is Tom from Dreadlabs, and today we're going to talk about my career.
Dreadlabs.
Alright guys, so a little while ago I posted a video regarding some tips on how to start your own freelancing career. And I thought it might be interesting to also show you my own career. So I made this roadmap where I'm going to talk you through what I did basically ever since I got out of high school, which is around 8 years ago now, I think. I am 26 now, and I was around 17, 18 when I got out of high school. But the reason I wanted to post this video is to give you an insight on how my career started and how I got to where I am now as a freelancer, as the owner of Dreadlabs basically, but also to show you that the road's bumpy for everyone and that there is a lot of obstacles during a professional career. So yeah, basically giving you a little bit of an insight if you're completely like at the beginning of your career, or maybe you're just interested in what I do and what I've been doing for the past couple of years. Anyways, let's dive into this. So my roadmap basically starts after I graduate high school, which is in 2014. At this time, I am not really into graphic design yet. I did a lot of making custom Pokemon sprites when I was a kid, when I was around like 11 or 12 years old. So I knew my way around a couple of graphic software, not really Photoshop, but Paint.net, if you know that, and of course Microsoft Paint. But how I spent most of my time was basically being a DJ and a producer. So at this point in time, I did a couple of small gigs, but what I mainly did was I made music in my bedroom with a friend of mine. We were part of this DJ producer duo. So electro house and EDM, the big room house scene is really big at this point in time, and that's what we are trying to get into, I guess, and break through. Looking back now 8 years ago, where this obviously didn't happen, but we were very active in the online community there, especially on SoundCloud. Me and my friend even had our own sub-label on another record label from London, I think. But this is also around the time where I enrolled into my first form of higher education, and I applied for a bachelor's degree at Fontys University of Applied Sciences, and this was for IT. So the way that this education has been built down is the first year you go into either software development, IT and business, hardware development, or IT and media design. And at that point I thought I wanted to get into IT and media design because I like making websites and the visual part of that. And the first couple of months you go through this program and they kind of make you do all the four of those kinds of things. So I also had to do a little bit of software developing. So I learned a little bit about C# and stuff like that, and that wasn't really my cup of tea. The weird part is that you have to go through with that in order to actually start getting to do design. And it was around the spring of 2015, so almost 8 months or so later, where I realized this is not what I want to do with the rest of my life. I didn't really like the IT class environment that much. I had a couple of good friends, one of which I talk to from now and then on Instagram, but mainly the way that this education system was set up wasn't cut out for me, and I just wasn't motivated enough to keep going through with it. So yeah, I just came to the conclusion that this was not the direction I wanted to go, my professional career to go into. So at this point, basically, okay, so a little bit of backstory here. I had to redo the 4th year of my high school, and when you go to the, not sure what it's called, but the last 2 years of high school, they make you choose a couple of different subjects and you can drop a couple of them. And I basically dropped mathematics because I hated it. And I preferred getting art history, and yeah, I basically preferred art history over mathematics. And then after dropping out of IT, I basically realized that I wanted to do another education, which sounded a lot more like something that I would like, which was called Communications and Multimedia Design. But before I was actually able to enroll into Communications and Multimedia Design, they told me at my application that I had to at least have done mathematics in my high school year. So what I did was I basically went to this special school where you can just get only one subject of your high school degree, if that makes sense. So I only was there for 2 hours a week following math classes basically, and at the end of the year, so in the spring of 2016, a year after I dropped out of IT school, I had to do the high school exam for math, and I passed. And this resulted in me being able to enroll into communications and multimedia design. While I was doing those 2 hours of math class a week, I was also starting to kind of like making and maintaining the website for a local printing company, and eventually I also started doing their social media posts, so I could do a little bit more Photoshop there. And thanks to this printing company, I was also able to find a couple of other local clients, including like a local restaurant where I could do a little bit of website maintenance, I guess. These were, I guess, my first freelance clients. During the spring of 2016, I graduated high school kind of for the second time, you know, passing my math degree and stuff. And in September of 2016, I enrolled into communications and multimedia design. And right off the bat, I get a notification from them that I didn't really need to finish my math degree anyways. So basically, because someone told me the wrong information, I wasted a year of my life, kinda. So yeah, I was pretty mad at the school, but at the same time, I was kind of happy that I was able to, you know, start working as a freelancer, because it gave me quite an advantage compared to the other students, especially in terms of coding. So the way that this new education, I'm gonna call it CMD from now on. So the way that CMD was built up is, in the first quarter of the year you had print design, then web design, then motion design and camera work, then interaction design, and in the second year you had, physical design, so basically learning a little bit of 3D printing, product design and Arduino, then mobile design, kind of app development, but it wasn't really that nicely, like, you didn't really learn a lot about app development, but they thought they were teaching you that. Then it was game design and gamification, and after that it was like experience design, I think, something like that. So that's what the first 2 years of CMD looked like for me. So yeah, I kind of had a little bit of an advantage here and there. So yeah, besides graphic design, I was also doing animation and coding there. They really didn't taught you any of the basics. They just told you to start learning them yourself, which was always also kind of odd to me. But yeah, I was motivated enough to start actually like learning those things myself. A couple of other students weren't as motivated and were kind of lagging behind technically there. So this is where in this CMD the problem starts for me, and that's like technically there's a big difference between a lot of the students. You know, like some students were just better at stuff than others. And yeah, that's always like something that I never understood, like how they wouldn't think the technical part, so coding and learning actually how Photoshop works, Illustrator works, and how any of these softwares work. They never thought that was very important, but yeah, that's just me. During all of this, I was still part of this DJ duo and producer duo. We kind of went from like making EDM and big room music. We kind of started transitioning into the trap scene and the dubstep scene, I guess. So kind of getting more into bass music. And all the while, in 2016, we started hosting our own local events. And I talked about this in the previous video, and I may have talked about this on my live streams already. But basically, what I did was we made our own artworks at this point. So I did the artworks for my own DJ duo, but also the flyers and social media rollouts for the events that we were hosting. And yeah, we kind of like started getting some recognition here and there. Our bookings start to spike. Our tracks are getting played by bigger and bigger DJs. Pretty nice. And this also gives me the opportunity to do a little bit more visual stuff. And at this point, I'm doing a lot of the music production work, and I'm doing DJing, but I'm also doing a lot of graphic design and you know, planning and social media marketing, I guess, mainly for the event company, but also for our DJ duo, and sometimes a little bit still freelancing for other companies. So this is how basically most of my 2016 and 2017 looked like. Basically following the classes of my CMD school, all the while also trying to be a producer, DJ, and hosting our own events. So around where my second year of CMD starts, we give our last event, and this is where a very big learning point for me comes in. So the events that we hosted went pretty well, and we really wanted to expand. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to throw a really big party, almost like an indoor festival. So we got like a local venue, which was usually like rented out to old people dancing. and we booked like a very big rapper here in the Netherlands and a couple of other artists. We rented out a giant stage, so we went all out with this. At the time, this was a lot of money for me. I think the complete investment into everything was around 5,000 or 6,000 euros, if I'm not mistaken. And the event went pretty well, but we just weren't able to get out of the cost of what we made, and that's because we didn't really sell enough tickets. At the last point, like the venue basically said that we had to cut off an hour of our time that we were there. There just was a lot that we didn't really execute well enough, and that's fine, honestly, because you make mistakes, and this was a costly mistake, but it was definitely a mistake that I learned a lot from, and it definitely made me more cautious about taking steps into whatever direction I was taking. So yeah, starting businesses, working with other parties, stuff like that, it definitely made me more cautious in the future. It was also pretty rough, at that point in time I thought I would be in debt for a long time. Luckily, my family was able to help me out with this a little bit, but yeah, it was definitely a learning point. Around this time, I'm starting to take design a little bit more seriously, and I also proceed to go further under another DJ name, and I try to get more gigs on my own. And I kind of like disband the DJ duo here. And that's because, I think also because of that event that kind of flopped, I just wanted to only be dependent on myself, and I didn't want to depend on other parties whatsoever. The second year of CMD starts, stopped hosting parties and started a solo DJ career. And at this solo DJ career, I basically expand my network under the like cities around me in the Netherlands a lot. I get a couple of more gigs. I do some artwork here and there, not only for myself but also for other people that want to collaborate with me. I host my own event, which is not like an actual event, but I just hosted my own night at a local pub. And I got some DJs to play there, and they got me to play their events that they hosted. And basically this is how I expanded my network, but this was only like mostly for DJing, so getting gigs. And I was also producing, and it's also probably a little bit interesting to note that because I produced so many songs, a lot of other DJs wanted to download those songs. So I used these download gates, to grow my SoundCloud account into a larger account, and this is how I also got a lot of notability from other DJs. Some bigger ones, some smaller ones, a lot of people who wanted to collaborate with me on tracks, which I did, and that gave me more gigs. So yeah, that's how I kind of like grew as a DJ and producer there, network-wise. But all of this is about to change because 2018 is around the corner, and what's happening is I get in touch with the art director for Yellowclaw. And if you don't know who Yellowclaw is, or what Barong family is Yellowclaw is basically a Dutch trap DJ duo. They also have their own music label, which is called Barong Family, and they're pretty big into the bass music scene. They are based here in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, I'm not sure if they still are, but that's where they were based at the time. And they offer me a job. And because I was still doing my CMD studies, I asked them if they could make that job into an internship, and after the internship we could see where to go from there. So at this point in time, I kind of start realizing that I don't want to scare them off, and I don't want to jeopardize my opportunity to become an intern for them just because I am a DJ and producer. So I kind of like dropped that, I kind of want to be a designer more because that would seem more mature than being an artist who wants to work there, if that makes sense. So around the summer of 2018, I start getting a little bit more serious about graphic design. I get a couple of cool assignments. One notable job for me that I really liked was doing an illustration work for Wuha Festival. Wuha is basically one of the biggest hip-hop festivals here in the Netherlands, and if you've been there, there's actually like this part where you can go on like this small lake, and there's a big illustration of Lil Yachty, and I did that, so that's pretty fun. I'm not sure if they still have it up, but it was a pretty fun job, and it was probably one of the first jobs that really became notable and like a lot of people saw. So that got me a couple of jobs there. I did some free work as well, illustrating, which got me, I don't know, 1 or 2 jobs through Reddit, a couple of ones through Instagram. And I started this is where I start, you know, transitioning my personal Instagram into a design account. So right before I start my internship at Barang Family in Yellowclaw. So during this internship, I work for and with two guys, Jordi Aarts and Tom de Recht. You might have seen these guys on Instagram. I'll show you a quick print screen of them. So these guys are pretty experienced designers. They know a lot and they teach me a lot. And I basically grow a lot here, and I get way more serious about graphic design than I was before. This is also where I get in touch with a lot of like kind of bigger artists, you know, like for example, a couple of artists that are signed to the Barang Family label. One notable one is Psycho Boys Club, and basically these guys, I got in touch with them, and eventually I got to do a couple of jobs for them. And this is where I could really develop the style that you can see now in my work for the first time. So we enter January, and at this point in time there are a couple of personal things happening. I wasn't really in a place where I wanted to be because I was conflicted about the music thing, you know. I kind of like dropped it all of a sudden. There was someone in my family who was about to pass away, and there were a couple of other things that we were like personally pretty heavy on me. So, and this is right before I end off my internship, and the last couple of weeks, I'm not sure how it went. I think I did a couple of weeks, like a week from home, and then I finished the last 2 or 3 weeks like there, and then I just got back home. Yeah, at somewhere around, like I think around New Year's Day, I have a panic attack in the car, and I cannot proceed to drive any further. And I get picked up by my stepdad around halfway through the Netherlands, so he had to drive halfway across the country to get me in my car. Might sound a little bit more extreme than I think because the Netherlands isn't that big, but it was kind of a big of a deal. But yeah, I got these panic attacks, I was hyperventilating, and I wasn't able to think straight anymore. I couldn't really put my finger on why this was happening. And so yeah, because my internship ended, we were supposed to do like one last half year of classes, and then we were doing our minor. But during these half year of classes, basically what's happening is every time I get on the bus, every time I get on the train, every time basically I use any form of transport that isn't like a bike, I get these panic attacks. And I kind of start realizing that this has something to do with my personal well-being and something that's mentally affecting me. And eventually I come to the point where I know what it is, because I don't really feel like I have a purpose in life anymore. And let me explain it really quick. Around the time we went into like the trap DJ scene and producing the music, and you know, kind of transitioning into design, my goal was to get signed at Barang Family, you know, and become like a professional DJ and producer and start making money off of that, start making a living of something that I like. I felt that I didn't want to finish my education. I didn't want to finish CMD because I didn't think it was any productive to me, but if I wouldn't be able to finish it, I wasn't able to pay my student loans back, because if you finish your education, part of your student loan gets pardoned, I guess, if that makes sense. I hope that's translated right. And then also I felt like, you know, oh, if I start working as a designer for Barang Family, I kind of reach my goal, and I wasn't really expecting to get there as a designer at first. And then all of a sudden that went kind of quickly, and it actually happened. So what the result of that was is that I kind of started feeling like I hit my goal way too soon, and I didn't really feel like I have a purpose anymore. And I always compare this when I talk about this with, imagine your goal being to climb the Mount Everest, and then at some point you all of a sudden have climbed the Mount Everest and you don't have any higher mountain than the Mount Everest to climb anymore. I wanted to reach higher, and I didn't really know what purpose that was, and I couldn't really find it at all because I didn't really feel like working for bigger clients in the design industry, in the music industry, or becoming a better designer or a bigger designer felt that satisfaction or felt that accomplishing to me, if that makes sense. Yeah, I get the nervous breakdown. I'm talking to a psychiatrist at this point. and trying to figure out how I can find that drive again. I explore what I want to do with my music career, if I even want a music career, and how I want to do music again. But I didn't want to give up on design either. I didn't want to give up my clients either, because I started making like actual serious money for a part-time designer here in the Netherlands, I felt like. So I was really happy with that, and I didn't want to drop that as well. Also, what I didn't really talk about until so far is I was also doing like custom clothing, so I painted denim jackets and stuff like that. And I always wanted to set up a clothing label. Also something, like I wanted to do all these creative things, and yeah, everyone kept telling me there's no way, you have to choose one. And yeah, that just really bummed me out and depressed. I felt depressed about it. Yeah, at some point I started kind of dealing with it and kind of accepting that I'm gonna do all of those things either half-assed or I'm gonna just have to pick one. And around this time I kind of start feeling better again. So this is around this summer of 2019. And yeah, what I'm basically doing is enrolling back into school again, but I start my minor. So instead of like those last 6 months of classes on CMD, I made sure that I could catch up on those later. So I started to enroll in a minor program on Fontys University of Applied Sciences. It's about transmedia design and storytelling. It was really nice, and the cool part was that I was able to connect with people from all over the world, because this was an international minor, and I became friends with someone that I talk to on a regular basis still every day from now on, Jack Hunter, my friend from Australia. He's also been on the podcast. And I met a couple of other really cool Dutch people as well, to which I'm talking to every day from now on, and I work with even. What I also was really struggling with during my nervous breakdown and while I was living near Amsterdam was coping with loneliness. And yeah, I definitely didn't feel lonely anymore during my transmedia design minor. So I was kind of starting to feel better and better. And at this point I start getting some serious clients, and one of which is Musical Freedom, which is Tiesto's label. So it's a big EDM label, and I did a lot of artworks for them over the course of, I think, around a year or something, maybe a year and a half, and some animation work. So my design career started to take off really. But in the back of my mind, I was still struggling with the fact that I didn't really do any music-related stuff anymore, and I didn't really do any clothing-related stuff anymore. And this is where I kind of start thinking about an idea. And this idea is, of course, what you're looking at right now, Dreadlabs. Basically, I wanted to find a way in which I could do music and design and clothing and all of those creative practices that I like. And yeah, because I was definitely sure that a lot of people were struggling with that, and also, struggling with the fact that a lot of people around us tell us that you should pick one thing, and usually it's the boring thing because it makes more money or gives you more security, blah blah blah. You all know this, and you've all probably heard this from someone. But yeah, in the back of my mind, I get this idea that I want to create events and talk to people on like a podcast and show people on how to design certain things, help out. And yeah, I do all of these separate kind of things. For example, I started filming how I made a denim jacket that I painted. I started recording a podcast with a friend of mine. I started even recording like a design tutorial. And all of these different things started like kind of happening because I was like, okay, I'm just gonna have to start producing content, and then it will take shape on its own. And yeah, I'm kind of starting to do this around the end of 2019, around November. And in January of 2020, my minor ends. And of course, 2 months later, I'm starting to catch up on classes for CMD, so I can start on my graduation thesis. And then COVID hit, of course. So in order to catch up on these classes, I had to travel 3.5 hours a day to get to my school and go back home. And because of like the lockdown and staying at home, it basically gave me the opportunity to put those 3.5 hours a day into something else. And I told myself, it's now or never. I do have to drop Dreadlabs content now. So the funny part is, I didn't release any content that I produced prior to February 2020 or something, and I just literally recorded a new tutorial and dropped it on my YouTube channel. The first tutorial of Dreadlabs ever. You can find it on my channel. It's the Chrome type one. I think it's a Chrome type one. During this, I'm also like still freelancing for bigger clients, for Musical Freedom, but also for other labels. And yeah, I'm literally like making some pretty serious money with it, because this side hustle basically was my part-time job. This is how I paid for like stuff, right? But it wasn't like a lot of money, but it was to me at the time. I was still living at home, so I didn't really have to pay any rent. So yeah, it was pretty nice to save up and do nice things. Anyways, the first Dreadlabs video hits, and yeah, it kind of starts getting some traction. And at this point, I think I have like 1,700 followers on Instagram, and I don't really have any followers on Dreadlabs, I think. I might have a couple because I was giving away some free assets at the time, but I'm not really sure. So yeah, Dreadlabs launches in April of 2020, and steadily but quickly I start posting more and more content, and I see that YouTube basically starts taking the lead in terms of what my audience thinks is the most interesting to watch. Because on Instagram I'm posting these previews of tutorials and not really any like separate content, if that makes sense. So around like the summer, I start actually getting my first patron, which is also my friend Jack. But yeah, I'm also starting to earn a little bit of money on Patreon, and I'm like starting to host my own web shop, selling 1 or 2 asset packages, the render pack and the vector package. You know, of course, doesn't right away give me enough money to get by or anything. It was just a side hustle, Dreadlabs, at the time. And by the end of the summer, the videos and the content have been growing at a rate where I can see that my YouTube channel, it can be a serious thing, and I'm kind of like thinking of making Dreadlabs into my career now. And while my graduation thesis starts, I'm actually able to combine it pretty well together with Dreadlabs and freelancing, as we are still in COVID, and there's from time to time there's lockdown again. And yeah, and around the beginning of 2021, in January, I finally graduated from C&D, because at this point I was done with the teachers there. I was done with their work ethic, and they kept proving to me that they didn't really care about their students and didn't care about anything at all, and I just felt undervalued. But yeah, sorry, off topic. Anyways, around January 2021, I graduate. Dreadlabs is doing pretty well, and I think this is also around the first month where I make enough money with Dreadlabs that I was able to actually pay my rent. Because in January 2021, me and my girlfriend also start moving into an apartment, and actually the first time our rent is due, I actually make enough money with Dreadlabs to pay my rent. And I was like, what? Is this for real? And at this point in time, I'm trying to juggle between freelancing and working on Dreadlabs. And basically this results in me doing freelancing and Dreadlabs full time. And I think in the beginning, it's 70% freelancing, 30% Dreadlabs, and that quickly turns over to 70% Dreadlabs and 30% freelancing. And yeah, this is how I started making a living now in 2021, which is really, really cool. And all the while, you know, like a couple of like long-term clients come back to me every now and then, and I get new clients. And around the summer of 2021, I even start getting clients through Dreadlabs. And this is also around the time where I think we are around 25,000 subscribers, which is insane. But after almost half a year of working at home from my apartment, from the living room, I kind of started feeling like a little bit lonely again. Of course, I'm living with my girlfriend and we have a lot of people over, but yeah, we still have to face a couple of consequences from COVID and the lockdowns. What I kind of come up with is I did a couple of guest lectures at the minor that I did in 2019. And yeah, I kind of started talking to my old teachers there, and they were actually interested in me doing more lectures there on a weekly basis. So this is where I kind of like work out this job with them where I think I work there now for 8 hours a week ever since September 2021. And this of course yeah, it's a nice amount of money. It's not enough to live off of. But the reason I took this wasn't to make more money. It literally was only to involve myself more with other people. And what better way to do that than a creative minor? So basically, I became a teacher there. Just for the social aspect of it. Yeah, so this way I could meet new people, also meet international people, which is always super interesting to me. And yeah, overall just have a good time there. And I like it so far. I definitely do. But yeah, there's still something missing because at this point I know Dreadlabs can grow bigger and bigger and better. And same goes for my freelancing jobs. I do a lot of design jobs right now, but I think what I did with Dreadlabs, I can try to apply that potential to my own clients. So I want to do more, I want to expand. And I think the next step for that, or I thought the next step for that would be a new office. So around March 2021, so about a year ago, I started talking to this guy who is called Ruud. And he is basically in the process of starting a giant creative hub here in Tilburg, the Netherlands, to get like a giant building together with a lot of creatives, you know, that they can rent their own office spaces and everything is like custom made, every location. It sounds really appealing to me. And so now from April onward, I am actually renting out an office space and a studio in his Enter Creative Hub. So that's super, super cool. I'm really happy to be there, and this is definitely the next step for me in Dreadlabs, because this way I can actually start hiring interns, maybe even hiring freelancers, and involve myself more in the local community, but also involve myself more in terms of expanding my network, also giving me the opportunity to be more creative in more different practices, giving me more space to work with. So yeah, as of April 2022, the Dreadlabs studio and the Dreadlabs office are a fact. So yeah, that's basically a roadmap of my career. I know this video took a long time, sorry for that. Anyways, in post I will try to make sure to show you an overview of the timeline, as well as some notable designs and artworks that I did over the years. But yeah, I hope this video was a little bit useful to you. I hope this was interesting enough to follow. And I definitely hope that this video gave you the idea of that you can actually start making a living off of whatever creative practice you're interested in. And I definitely think that no matter what people say to you, don't give up and see if there is a workaround or see if there is a way, because look at me and look what I wanted to do. I wanted to do it all, and I'm actually able to do this as a career now. And I'm not sure for how long it's gonna last, of course. But I'm definitely here to see how far I can go. Yeah, it's all thanks to you guys. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. If you've ever watched a video of mine, if you ever bought a product off of mine, if you are a patron of mine, of course. But yeah, every single thing that you do helps. Even just liking this video, placing a comment, joining the Discord community, help each other out. It all means so much to me, and it all helps me out so much. So yeah, I don't know what else to say. Just thank you so much. And if you really do want to help me out, you can always become a patron of the channel. This will give you access to the project files from all of my tutorials, a 15% discount in my Dreadlabs web store, as well as an exclusive Discord role. If you go one tier up, you'll also get access to exclusive videos, including a full course on how to start your own clothing brand. So yeah, I hope this roadmap of my career was a little bit insightful. And with all of that being said, this was Tom from Dreadlabs, tuning out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.